Okay, Krista, let's take a look at what we have. Cover looks great. I think it was smart to keep the type in white and the rings in white as to not to compete with this gorgeous image that you're using for your cover. So I think that was a good choice. Move on to the spreads. I think the contents page is looking pretty good. Looking really good. One thing that I would recommend is in all your pages, there's something we say in graphic design quite often that says that everything should be aligned with something, specifically in page layout. So I would pull this down and I would either align it with the top of the baseline with about and the baseline of the first line of that type. So if I pull a guide down, you can line it like right about there, align that, or with the top with the contents page right there. Just align that with the contents page so that it's in alignment. Okay, contents page looks good. You have the rest of your page numbers to fill in. Now, one thing I would recommend is instead of using this solid line, I would use a dotted leader to lead to the page numbers. I think it doesn't consume as much visual energy, and it just kind of guides the line along, so it doesn't have much visual weight as much as this has. So I think it's a really nice way to create a contents page. Okay, first spread. First spread looks good. I think you're a little image heavy. I really do. I think, honestly, this spread right here could do with 4 less images, 5 less images than what you have. Now, remember, every image you add adds a visual stop to the page. So right now, you count the visual stops in the page. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 visual stops. That's quite a few. Typically, we want to keep that down to 4 or 5 tops. We can do that on this page very easily. So we have about, this would be 1, then we have 1 image. You could use 1 image there, the trains, the wolves, whatever, either one. 1 image there, 1 image there. That's it. The addition of each one of these images doesn't add to the meaning of the page. So all you're doing is adding more visual stops to the page. Hope that makes sense. The point is, I think that you're using too much imagery. I think this page looks good. I think this page looks really good. This page you're starting to really develop a nice use of white space. And then again, back to this page, too much imagery again. We don't need this. We don't need any of this stuff. Info, we don't need that Anchorage, Alaska. We don't need the seal of the state of Alaska. 1 image will be fine. Down here, native art, 1 or 2 images right there. Right there, instead of pushing. So we have this spread instead of trying to push your design to the corners, every single corner of the page. See what I'm saying? Use white space. This page looks great. Noticing, though, that you've got Y Anchorage. Why is that in italic? I'm not real sure why that's in italic. Well, I would just keep that in the same typeface that you're using there. Okay, climate, demographics. Again, you don't need all of this stuff. Like this chart right here, this chart right here, this map right here. It's just adding too much to the page, so you're not allowing the page to breathe with white space. I would just use this image right here. That's it. Get rid of those. Okay, hospitality. Again, 1 or 2 well-placed images speaks volumes, more so than several placed images. So really think about size, scale, and placement of the images themselves. Okay, the one thing I really want the biggest concern I have in the whole presentation is this. Again, there's that. Okay, I kind of see why you're using italics there now. However, it looks like this is much bigger than this italics right here. So if you're going to use italics in those subheads, make sure they're consistently sized and placed. That one's bigger than the first. Okay, now, and again, I think that everything is looking good. There's 2 main concerns. I'm thinking that you're using too much images, too many images per page, and specifically at the beginning of your presentation where you have a lot of things on the same page. This page is just too image heavy. The other thing is the fact that the placement of your typography. So one of the ways that you can make it, develop good timing or good cadence in your story is by allowing the viewer to know where to start, where you want them to start to look in each page. And we do that by placing typography consistently. So watch as I scroll through page 1. Okay, here's your type on page 1. It's right there. Page 2, it jumps up here. Okay, and this is on the right-hand side spread. Jumps over here, jumps down here, jumps up here, jumps down here, over here, down here. And every time you do that, the viewer gets this, it might be subconscious, but it's an uncomfortable visual, it's an uncomfortable feeling that, and it's based on what's called stochastic movements of the eye. And it means that when you place your typography on the same place on every page, the eye becomes accustomed to looking at that spot to where the typography begins. If the typography jumps around, the eye is jumping around the pages, and the viewer becomes uncomfortable. Could be subconsciously, nonetheless, it does create discomfort. Let me show you what I mean on the right-hand side of your page. Okay, let's take a look at your type. Okay, history starts here, next page, jumps over here, next page, jumps back over here, next page, jumps back over here, next page, all the way up here. Next page, that's good. It stays the same there. Then down here, that stays kind of the same. Do you see what I'm saying? Then over here, then over here, then down here. Okay, so what I'm getting at is I would start my grid by placing the headline and the subsequent body copy on the same spot on each page. Let me give you an example. This is the example for the Santiago, Chile. And notice right here, notice every time you turn the page, okay, your eye knows exactly where to look for the beginning, the headline, and the body copy. Right there, right there, right there. See? Every page, right there, right there, right there. Okay, and we can see the same thing on the left-hand side of the spread as well. Well, that's a contents, but there's location. Okay, economy, existing venues, climate, culture. That jumps a little bit, but I think that's just an oversight. That should not have happened. I would have said something about that if I were directing this project. Okay, so do you see what I'm saying? So that's something I think that we're not seeing in your presentation. I think it would really help pull things together. Now, when you design with the grid, you can do this. You can start with the grid by placing your main paragraphs on each page. Make sure each of your main paragraphs consumes the same width and the same basic shape. So in other words, you know, your type columns are consistently wide. They're consistently using one column type instead of two columns. They're consistently using the same typeface and the same type size. Okay, they're consistently placed. Even this right here is a good example of what I'm talking about. Okay, if you take a look at the shape of this type box, okay, mentally note the shape of that type box, and then look at this one. Look how this one is shorter and fatter, and this one. So you want consistency there. Okay, so these two pages should go like this. You should have this in the headline in the same spot where it starts in the same spot, and then the type in the same spot. And I think that once you anchor your pages with the typography being placed consistently on each page, I think the rest is going to fall into place. Then it's just a matter of filling in images using the grid and definitely using white space. Remember, white space is your friend. It's your friend. You don't want to push your design to the edges of the page on each individual spread. For example, this particular spread could very easily it would be just as effective as you just remove that and just have these two images right here. Okay, conversely, the same thing here. You could have this whole page with the same shape type, the same shape for your type box, your text box, and then just have these two images up here as long as they fall within a grid. Or this image and this image. You see what I'm saying? As long as they fall in the grid, you don't have to fill in things. A negative space will speak to design if it falls within the grid. Okay? So in other words, this you got a two-column grid over here, right? So this could be blank right here, and it would hold the same visual impact. It would still show the same kind of compartmentalization, the same kind of page organization. Okay, so those are my main comments, is really pay attention to the grid and definitely get some consistency in the placement and location of your headlines and your body copy on each page. And I think that you're a little image heavy. Okay. Other than that, looking fantastic. Let's go through typography real quick. Okay, looks good. Looks good. Looking pretty good on your type. There's an orphan right there. Don't want anything sitting on a line alone. Rags look good. Margins look good. Hyphenation, probably shouldn't hyphenate the word Olympic, since that's, you know, the main topic, the main subject. Orphan, or widow, I'm sorry. Other than that, I think you're looking darn good. Okay, credits page. Don't forget your credit. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Any questions? Please let me know. But otherwise, I think that you're off to a wonderful start. Okay. Thanks.